Welcome to the Overwhelm is Optional podcast, where we cut through the fog of overwhelm so you can see all the ways to start creating a life that works for you. Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Overwhelm is Optional podcast, making overwhelm optional for you because, man, don't you want to get out of overwhelm? So this week we're talking about feeling overwhelmed by the environment. So noise, light, that kind of stuff. And this is something I've been thinking about making an episode about for a while, but it came up recently from feedback from the Leonie Dawson interview. If you haven't caught that one yet, it was a couple of weeks ago. It's well worth catching. I've had a lot of really good feedback about how it's moved people in different ways. There's quite a lot to unpick there. So it's worth going over and having a listen. But not right now, because right now you're in this episode with me and it'd be really nice for you to stay. So, yeah, Leonie talks about how having autism is very, very overwhelming. She also talks, surprisingly and refreshingly, about how she loves it because she's so sensitive to environmental stimuli that things that are beautiful become intensely beautiful. So that in itself is a whole discussion. I don't want to go through I don't want to delve into the potential Google rabbit hole of labels of ADHD and autism and what they mean. I'm just not interested in that as a debate at the moment. What I am interested in, though, is the way you, my listeners, and me myself responded to her talking about how she needs a break from very stimulating environments. So I just want to delve into that and put to one side the idea that having ADHD or autism means that you are definitely overstimulated by an environment and that the rest of us aren't, or that if we are, then that means maybe we need a label. I'm not really interested in the label, and there's lots of reasons behind that for me personally and professionally, and from what I know about autism and ADHD, from my professional and personal life. And I'm just not interested in that because it's not helpful to you. It just adds to the overwhelm, because then we go into an academic debate, and that's not what I'm interested in. What I'm interested in is you and how the environment that you place yourself in affects you and how you feel. Because sometimes we don't realise, we don't notice. So if you've ever had one of those days when you're like, oh my God, I'm so tired and I haven't really done anything, but you've been somewhere that for other people was fun or easy, but actually made you feel a bit on edge, and later you were really tired and a bit snappy, and you really just needed to withdraw from the world. And then you kind of get that, what's wrong with me? I shouldn't feel like this. I should be able to socialise, go out with friends, go to the cinema, go shopping, whatever it is, and I should be okay afterwards. Or you just don't connect the two. And I know I've done this in the past myself, where I haven't realised what's slightly jolted me out of my good mood. I'm just not quite sure what it is. And now that I practice, I walk my talk, I practice neutral noticing. So I'm walking through my day, noticing and listening to my body and noticing how different things make me feel, so that I can get the information I need to create a day that works best for me, that's happiest and nicest and most energizing and joyful, and because I want to live really well. So for me, it's about noticing the information I'm getting. So for example, take shops. So I'm funny with shopping. There are days when I'm like, yeah, I really feel like going shopping, and I'll have a whale of a time, but mostly I don't do the shopping, like the food shopping. In fact, I've just popped out because my son's cat's here, and so that means double cat food. And suddenly there was no cat food. What happened? How did that happen? I know it happened because there was no cat food when my partner went shopping at the weekend. So this was bound to happen, right? So I've just been out shopping and I went with this might be fun, going out in the world, even though really I just want to record this podcast and it's raining and I don't really want to go out. But no, it'd be fun. No, it wasn't fun. I'm just not interested. Whereas he loves shopping, my partner, he loves it. And I'm so, so grateful that he does the shopping. So for me, noticing that's really important. Do you like shopping? Do you not like shopping? Do you sometimes like shopping? When do you like shopping? What is it about the shopping that you like or don't like? So these are normal everyday activities that can give us really helpful information about how to live in the way that suits us best. Because there's different ways of shopping, aren't there? You don't have to go out. You could do it online. You could be lucky like me and have somebody who just loves shopping and he goes off and does all the shopping. It's brilliant. But when I do choose to go shopping, or I feel like I've got to actually go into a physical shop, some really interesting things can happen. So for me, I'm really not very good with very, very big shops with a lot of light in them. I'm just not. I find it really overwhelming. So, for example, a really, really big supermarket that's basically a warehouse with some, corridors they've planted in that they've made out of goods and loo roll, that kind of thing. I always feel like I need a map, I need a compass, I need sunglasses, I need a little bubble around me, don't come too close to me because it's too much. I'm just funny. And of course what they do is they deliberately put the thing that you need, because I would only pop in for like that one thing, and it's always going to be away from the main door because they need you to walk past all of their other goods to tempt you. And that's fair enough. That's marketing. I have a lot of respect for that. But for me, that may mean that on a day when I'm feeling particularly sensitive to my environment, when I've just had enough and I'm starting to close down and need to go home, I might therefore go without that one essential thing because I'm like, no, it's not happening. Just not happening. So noticing that's really, really important. There's other days when I can go in there and I'm on a mission, I'm going to get this, and this, and then I'm quite excited because I've kind of gone in. It's like I've gone in with my kit, it's like I've got my compass and my map. I know what I'm doing. I'm in and I'm out and I've done it. And I can feel quite excited about that, which is hilarious. So basically I'm making it into a game. I can see this now. But it's important, isn't it, to recognise when we feel overloaded by the environment, when the environment is overwhelming us, what's going on. Because then we can avoid giving our energy and attention to things that aren't serving us, and we can save it for the things that we really, really want to do. And this is how we get the time and energy that we so long for to actually do the things that matter to us. It's when we stop giving our time, energy and attention to the wrong things for us. And to do that, we have to get to know ourselves really well. And this is why I love the practice of neutral noticing, because otherwise what happens is we tend to notice and then judge ourselves and say, well, I ought not to feel like that. I ought to be different. So I just need to toughen up and I should be able to do that. Other people can do that. And that's not helpful because that's not actually getting to know ourselves. What that's actually doing is just being on board with the whole everybody should be the same and we should squish everybody into the same shape. No. How boring is that? And also, how's that working out for you? Because when I did that, that really didn't work out for me very well at all. So noticing what different environments, the impact they have on you, and it's not always going to be the same. And this is important. I think we often want one right, complete solution. This is who I am. I don't like that shop. I do like this shop. I'm an introvert, so I don't like being around people. I'm an extrovert. I love being around people. We like everything to be really, really sorted. That's the mind. The mind wants everything sorted. The problem is that we're always changing, and there will be parts of us that are more stable over time, and it's worth noticing that. But also there'll be things mainly that are changing. So, for example, when I was in my severe overwhelm. I just could not see the wood for the trees. I didn't have the energy to sort myself out. I tried so many things. That's different than now. So now I have a lot of energy. Some days I have not too much energy, because I don't think you can have too much energy, but some days I'm quite bouncy and like, yay, I've got my energy back, and I'm so excited because I really noticed that. It's really important to me. What's energizing me? Because I want more energy. I want more freedom to be me. I want more time to do the things that I love. So I'm monitoring those things. Where's my attention going? That doesn't mean I don't mess up, because I do. I know that I mess up. So I know that over the course of the pandemic, I've got sucked into reading the news again, which I know is not good for me because it's not helpful. And there's so much nonsense and contradictory stuff going on. It's just not helpful. But at a time when the world's felt particularly confusing, I've wanted information. So I've realised what's happened is that I've got addicted to trying to soothe my mind by trying to work out what's going on. And of course, there isn't. You don't really know what's going on. It's very messy. And so what I'm now doing as I'm going into winter retreat mode is I'm unsubscribing to lots of different newspapers and emails and sources of information. I'm not reading the news again. And you know what? It's brilliant. I highly recommend it. It doesn't mean I don't know what's going on, because if you've listened to any of my previous podcasts, I did do one on why it's a good idea not to listen to the news, because it meant from a mental health point of view, it's shown to not be great for us. So whenever I've done that as an experiment, the really important news that actually does affect me, that I might kind of more need to know, it always filters through. There's never a time when it hasn't filtered through, which is quite interesting, isn't it? So it means that I don't have to give my time, energy and attention to deciphering and trying to make sense of the world through media outlets, which, they're selling news, aren't they? They need to grab our attention. So it can, for me, I noticed that it sets me off into a rabbit hole, and it also activates my fight or flight response. It's just not a good place to be, and that's where the overwhelm comes from. It's not helpful to me. So sometimes I've found it helpful over the last 18 months, but mostly I'm looking back going, yeah, it's taking up too much of my attention, and I'm going to let it go again and see how that feels. And it's always an experiment. So for me, I'm going to try that. I'm going to neutrally notice my response. I'm going to notice when I'm thinking, oh, is that terrible? Have I become a terrible person because I don't really know what's going on in the world? I do know what's going on in the world, but that's my judgment. So I will notice that, and then I can release it. I can go, that's not very nice. That's not how I talk to myself. I'm going to ignore that. So how did we get back into the news? I guess because the news that's the online environment, isn't it? Which is kind of another episode, really. I really want to look at the physical environment, because I think that there's some real great source. There's a rich source of information for you. So I'm going to divide up the physical environment, the physical environment into physical, as in what the walls are made for, if there are walls, that kind of thing. Light, noise, signs, as in wording, and people. And let's see where we go. So see what comes up for you, and see if you can neutrally notice your reactions to what I'm saying. So that means get out of your head into your body so that you can escape your mind and its judgments about me, because we all judge each other. You'll have judged me by now. That's okay. And judging yourself as needing to be different than you are. So if it's really helpful to be able to just center yourself into your body by feeling your feet on the ground, maybe allowing the belly to soften or not, maybe allowing the shoulders to come away from the ears if they want to. Just notice how you feel in your body, and notice your mind and its lists of to do and its lists of getting better at and anything else. And if we start from there, it makes it easier to hear what I'm saying so that you can get the information you need to make your life easier. So, the physical environment. So it's worth noticing where you like to be. So whether you like to be outside or inside, whether you like big spaces or smaller spaces. How do you react, for example, when you step into a lift? How do you react when you go outside and it's cold? How do you react when you go outside and it's warm? So there's the physical environment of like cities. Do you like the feeling of having concrete and buildings around you? Do you like having a roof over your head? I don't mean as in, do you like having a home? I mean the physical sensations of having a roof over your head. Does it feel different at different times of year? So that kind of just noticing how the physical environment affects you can be really, really helpful. So I know that I like my home to feel cozy, and I don't like being in houses. It's not that I don't like, it's that I wouldn't choose to live in a home that was so tidy that I felt I couldn't relax. Because to me, that means I can't relax. I don't find it very relaxing. I also don't like being in a house that's too chaotic. So it's noticing things like that. And then for me, you can go deeper with this into, for example, I really like buildings that are kind of have this like softness to them. For example, one of our dreams, my partner and I, first date we had actually, we both mentioned that we wanted to build a straw-baled house. There's something, if you've ever been inside a straw-baled house, there's something really, really beautiful about it. To me, it's tangible in the air, the feeling. So it's something to do with how the light and the sound settles and moves inside of a building made of straw. So when you're in it, you don't know it's made of straw, but what you've got is slightly rounded walls, and you've got very thick walls, and it just changes the feelings of being inside. And there's something deeply restful and peaceful for me, and something very special and exciting because it's made of straw, right? It's just interesting. I love the idea of exploring buildings made of materials that are found around where you want to build. I just find that fascinating. I love the history of building and architecture and design, but also this kind of using what is around you. There's something very special about that for me. And for me, because I'm very earthy and I really, really like, I just need to be with my feet on the ground, as in grass and around trees. There's something about straw bale, the organicness of it, the kind of natural shape you get rather than, I guess it's not an engineered shape. Anyway, that's me. That's one of my favourite sensations of a building comes from stepping inside a straw bale building. So noticing what it is for you matters, because how you set up your home so that it's the least overwhelming environment, it's the most nourishing environment, matters. And then also things like, sometimes you just feel a bit on edge and not sure why. So you can sometimes track it back. I notice that some people's houses I just don't feel as comfortable in, and there'll be lots of reasons, but sometimes it's just the building, right? So noticing that can be helpful, but it's very, very personal, and just noticing it for you matters if you want more time and energy, because some buildings can feel draining. I think they certainly can for me. The question is, can they for you? Then also for me, shops matter. So for example, I don't really like those huge shopping centres. I mean, I like them because they're quite cool, because you've got everything in one place, and that's quite a cool idea, and you can eat there and everything. So it's quite exciting. but also they tend to be very noisy, and they tend to have a lot going on in them. So there's lots of people moving, there's lots of people talking, there's lots of lights, there's lots of things to pull your attention in different directions. They tend to have very, very, very high ceilings, so the noise carries differently. And then I went to, where did I go? Oxford, and there's a shopping centre there, which I thought it looks like the same as all of those large indoor shopping places, but it felt really nice. It's like, why does this feel different? Is it just because it's Oxford, and Oxford is, it's a beautiful city, but it feels like, and I don't know why, and the friend I was with who were talking about it, I don't know why it feels different, but it feels like you're outside, not inside. So that's useful information for me. So I don't like being inside too much. And that's, to me, is to do with artificial light. So I don't know whether there was natural light or if they just changed the light so that it was full spectrum. I don't have a clue, but the air felt natural. The light felt natural. I felt like I could breathe. It was different. And that's important to me, because then I'm more likely to go there. I kind of feel like I'd really like to talk to people who design shopping centres, because it can't just be me who gets overwhelmed and goes home and doesn't buy things. Maybe it is, I don't know. Anyway, what else? Oh yes, I won't name the shop because that's not very helpful for the shop. There's nothing wrong with the shop. But I was in this shop, which is a well-known shop, which I'm pretty sure is not aimed, it's not targeted at people in their teens. And yet they were playing music which is for a different generation to what must be their target audience. And it was so irritating to me that I walked out of the shop. So they lost a sale, and this has happened to me many times in my life when I'm like, there's a clash between the goods I'm looking at and the music playing. So I don't know if that's because there's just one person choosing all the music in every shop, because it pretty much seems the same everywhere, or whether somebody somewhere in the company thinks this is trendy. I don't know what it is, but it makes no sense to me. Why can't we have classical music? Like, surely when you're in a shop, you want people to pause, feel comfortable, browse, become relaxed. You really want the nervous system to just go into parasympathetic. You want people to feel at home there. You want people to love it there and go, oh, this is so nice. I want my home to feel like this. I'm going to buy all this stuff. Don't you? I mean, I actually don't know anything about marketing music at all. I don't think I've read anything about that. But anyway, I'm just saying that some shops, the music is so irritating that I'm out of there. Unless I'm in a determined, got my kind of like equipment, I'm ready, I've got my lavender oil. I'm laughing. I have an very old friend, lovely friend, who used to say, IKEA, you need lavender oil, you need a map and compass, must take water. Hilarious. So you can cope with IKEA. Really funny. So yes, how does the music affect you? Because sometimes we don't hear the music. We don't notice the music because it's background music. And then we start to get irritated, or we might start to dance. If I like the music, I'll dance. So noticing the music can help you identify why your mood has changed or why you're feeling more overwhelmed. Just saying, it's a big one for me. Is it for you? If it's not, then you know that. That's okay. And I know this is difficult because there's nothing you can do about the music, although maybe we could. Maybe we could all write and say, please can we have classical music, and please can you not start Christmas music in October? Because it's just too much. Overwhelmed by Christmas music. Right, what's next on my list? So the physical environment, how does the brick, the steel, the concrete, the straw affect you? How does the absence of walls affect you? It's probably going to be different at different times of year. Then you can notice noise. So music, what effect is that having on you? And then the people noise. And coffee shops. I love coffee shops and I love good coffee, but man, what is going on? It's the same in restaurants where they've now got the kitchen so you can see it. It's so noisy. Are you like me when you go out to eat and they offer you they say, where do you want to sit, or they offer you a seat and you look for where the speaker is? Do you do that? I do. And I'll say, can we have somewhere quieter, please, away from a speaker? Or can you turn the music down? I do ask for music to be turned down. Yeah, that's quite funny. I'm also the person in the cinema who goes out and asks them to turn it down. Yes, it was me. I'm not very good with noise. I find noise overwhelming. I just don't like it. And then you could say, but Heidi, you go to Glastonbury. I know. How do I cope at Glastonbury? It's outside. It's in Somerset. I'm a Somerset girl. I don't know. And I work there, so it's different. I love my team. It's the memory, it's the energy. I don't know. How do I cope with the noise? I do avoid certain areas where the noise clashes from both sides. And I do have special earplugs. But I don't know. It's a festival. It's a celebration. It's midsummer. The energy is different. But yeah, I'm not very good with noise. How are you with noise? Because I notice that if I've been in a situation where I can't control the noise level, I have started to notice more and more that I can't process. I can't understand what people are saying. I have no patience to listen. I just start to zone out. I'm like physically leaving, or I've mentally left the room. I just don't cope with noise. I get to a stage where I'm just out of there. I just start. I think my mind just starts shutting down. I think maybe I used to be better at it, or maybe I've just got to know myself and now I'm like, yeah, but this isn't fun. I want more fun. So for example, if I go out for a meal, I want to talk to the person. I don't want small talk. And what happens when you have a lot of background noises, the talk becomes rubbish because you can't really hear, so you just talk rubbish. I'm not interested in small talk. I like having real conversations and laughing and I don't know, getting to know the person or discussing something on a deeper level. That's what I want. I want to connect. I want to connect and have fun and tell stories and listen to stories. And if there's background noise, like banging in the kitchen, the coffee, crash, 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 I can't focus on the person in front of me. And that disconnects me. And then I feel overwhelmed. I don't like it. Just saying. So I will always sit in a coffee shop away from the coffee machine if I can. I will always ask to be seated if I can in a restaurant away from the speaker. What else? So what about you? What does noise do to you? Notice what a noisy environment does. Now, for some people, they enter a noisy environment and they love it and their energy goes up. But if yours doesn't and you're judging yourself, I'd argue that's not neutral noticing. And then you're applying neutral noticing to it, you can go, I notice that I feel a bit, maybe it's the noise. There you go. There's some useful information. Now, you could go with this and say, yes, but Heidi, this isn't very helpful because I have no choice. But I'm not suggesting that you remove yourself from every environment that overwhelms you. What I'm asking you to do is use it as useful information, and then you have a choice. Either you can avoid environments because it's not fun, it's not what you want to do, or you can compromise and limit them, or you can ask to change environments or change something about the environment, which is, making a fuss. Yeah, I've never been very good at that either. Or you can try this. So you go into an environment, you don't like it. So you go into a shop and It's too noisy. The music's like, oh, and you could go, right, I'm going to feel my feet on the ground. I'm going to allow my belly to soften. I'm going to notice how I feel. I'm going to put like a bubble around me to protect myself from the noise and the overwhelm. And I'm just going to see if I can play with this and get better at dealing with the noise. You could do that. There's choice. And I think it's about choice, isn't it? It's about knowing ourselves, knowing what makes us happy, really valuing our time, energy and attention, and then making a choice about where we spend time, how we spend our time, how we can make it better, asking for what we need, saying, actually, I really like meeting one person at a time in a quiet place. Like, one of my favourite things to do is meet a friend for a walk. Why? Well, you're outside, your feet are on the ground, and you can have a proper conversation. It's just more fun, personally, I think. But it's not about me. What do you like doing? What works for you at this point in your life? Because it changes all the time. So noticing what overwhelms you, what drains you, gives you choice, particularly when you notice it neutrally and you drop the judgment. So instead of trying to change yourself to fit in with that environment, you decide, at the moment, that's not helpful. It's not what I want. What do I want instead? Well, maybe you need some time on your own. I don't know, but you will know if you neutrally notice the effects of the environment on you. What other sort of noise is there? There's the noise of other people. And I can find this really, really difficult. If there's like, what is it with phones? Will somebody please explain to me why, because you can walk around having a conversation on a phone, people do loudly and personally. I don't understand. Like, it's still a conversation, which is nothing to do with all of the people you're walking past. But that's just me. I just find it embarrassing and a bit overwhelming when everybody's talking on their phone all the time. What else? Oh, this is a good one. Signs. Like, there are signs telling us what to do everywhere. I mean, there's masses of them because of the pandemic, but there always were. There's just like, I don't know, do this, do that, or buy this, buy that. There's just signs everywhere. And now, this is funny. Excuse me. This is funny because it's designed to do the opposite. So I'm now irritated by the signs everywhere telling me to stop, breathe and notice. I'm really irritated by them. Why? Because I'm fed up of being told what to do. It's overwhelming. Everybody wants to tell me what to do. I don't want to be told what to do. I just don't. Stop telling me what to do. I'm not a child. Stop telling me what to do. So, like, you go now to beautiful arboretums and everywhere it says pause, breathe, notice. No! Stop telling me what to do. And I even don't like the poems. And I know it's a good idea and I know it comes from a heartfelt place and I appreciate the effort, but this is my problem. My mind likes words, and I will read information for breakfast, and if I go somewhere to walk, I don't want to read. I don't want information, even if it's a beautiful, inspiring poem. And also because if I keep going back there, it's the same poem, and I know you can keep reading poems and I get all that, but I don't want to. I want to look at the view without any written information. Written information gets me back in my head. I don't want to be in my head. I want to be in nature. I want to feel connected to the ground. I want to feel the breeze on my skin. I want to feel free. I want this open space. I want to feel the trees around me. I don't want to be told to breathe, pause, notice, be mindful, be inspired by poetry. That's just me. Just thought I'd share that. How do you feel about being overwhelmed by written signage everywhere, warning you about things, telling you to do things, informing you, advertising at you, telling you what to do, even telling you a beautiful quote? Just asking, because personally, I just want some space from written words. That's just me. That's my rant over. Oh, people was the last thing on my list. So we kind of came into that with noise, but it's not just people speaking. It's also the physical, for me, it's the physical proximity to people and how fast they're moving. So that sounds quite funny. I like space around me. I don't really like being in a crowd. So it's not just the noise. But this is also interesting for me, is that since we've had the pandemic, I'm actually now enjoying being in crowds. It's like I've had such a long break from it that now I find it really quite interesting. So I went to see, who did I go to? I went to see Russell Brand, and there were people all around me. It was packed. And I was really excited because it just felt normal. It just felt nice, which is hilarious. Because before the pandemic, I'd have been like, oh, why can't we have socially distance? I don't like the word socially distance because it's not even a thing. It doesn't make any sense. But before, I would have been like, oh, how lovely. There's two spare seats either side of me and behind me. Like, I would have loved that. Now I'm like, I don't even mind the fact that the person behind me is coughing. Honestly, I'm so excited to be back out in the world of people. Now, it won't last because I'm an introvert and I get a lot of nourishing energy from withdrawing from people. But I also really love people, and I get a certain amount of energy from spending a certain amount of time in a certain way with other people. So what about you? The introvert extrovert thing is really interesting. I basically go with if you refill your cup alone, then you're probably an introvert. And if you need to see other people to get a refill, then you're probably an extrovert. But these labels are only helpful if they're helpful to you. Otherwise, they're unhelpful. And also, when we start, I really don't like putting people in boxes and labeling, and that includes myself, because it doesn't allow me to change. So for me, it's how useful is the term introvert or extrovert? And I'm only just in the introvert bit, but I like a lot of time on my own. So I don't like it if people started saying introverts this, extroverts this, because I don't like the bossiness of it. So this is the back to the rebellious. Don't tell me what to do. Don't tell me how to be. But noticing for you where your energy is draining, where you feel overwhelmed. Is it when you spend too much time with people, or is it when you spend too much time on your own? You know, what works for you at this point in time, because it will change. So for example, when I had small children, you don't even get to pee on your own. You certainly don't get to sleep. You know, it's like you just don't get much physical space. However, I craved being with other people, as in human grown-up people, because although I felt as a mother physically encroached on, and I loved my children, and I love my adult children, but as a mother, you know, children are small parasites. They get their needs met, and you don't get a lot of space, and I found it very overwhelming, because you're running their lives and needs in your head at the same time as your own. So I think it's overwhelming. So when my children were small, I craved time with other people, whereas now I crave a much smaller amount of time with other people. Have I changed? I don't know. I mean, have I changed as in, am I more introverted now? I don't know. I don't care. And that's my point. My point is, this podcast is for people who don't want to Google endless information. I used to do this a lot, particularly, you know, with my psychologist hat on. I'd Google so much information and be so fascinated by studies about humans, Whereas now I'm kind of like n equals 1. I am in my own experiment, and what works for me, and what doesn't. And noticing that without judging or trying to change myself, that gives me the freedom that I long for, to be me, because I can't be anyone else. And I don't like all these platitudes, like just be yourself, everybody else is taken, or blah blah blah. But there is an element of truth there, and that it's incredibly difficult going through life trying to be a different human than you are. And that doesn't mean that I don't believe in personal growth, personal development. Of course I do. What do you think I'm doing on this podcast? My work is personal development. I love personal development, but if it comes from a place of lacking self-acceptance, lacking self-love, and there is so much of that about right now, and the current narrative that humans are a blight on the earth is one of the saddest things to me. We are not a blight. I love humans. I love myself. I love my listeners. I love my work. Humans are amazing. And I think this constant overwhelming need to bash ourselves as if we're all fundamentally flawed is the problem. As in, if we stopped doing that, we would be happier, much happier, and the world would be a kinder, lovelier place to be in. Because constantly bashing ourselves is the cause of the overwhelm, is the cause of the stress. There's nothing wrong with you. Does that mean that we shouldn't have a commitment to growth? No, of course not, because there's nothing wrong with you. It's not about fixing yourself, but it doesn't mean you can't be a better version than yourself. It doesn't matter. It doesn't mean that you can't give more to the world by being more at ease with yourself. It doesn't mean that you can't get better at doing something you really want to do. Quite the opposite. But if it comes from a place of bashing, there's something wrong with me that needs fixing, that is a long, overwhelming, draining, sad way to spend life, I think, personally. What do you think? Because it's your choice. And I choose being myself, loving myself, accepting myself more and more each day. Doesn't mean it's easy, but I'll tell you what, it's a damn sight more fun than constantly trying to sort myself out as if there's something wrong with me because I didn't fit into the working environment or the social environment that I found myself in. Just that shift for me from self-judgment and trying to solve myself as if I'm a problem to self-acceptance, to noticing neutrally my reactions, even my overwhelm. That changes things. It's freeing. It gives you the space that you need to start seeing that you do have the time and energy. You have what it takes to do whatever it is you want to do. And that's what I wanted to say, really. I don't quite know how I got that from feeling overwhelmed by your environment to being yourself. But I guess it's the notice how the environment affects you, and then it gives you more useful information. It's all just useful information. Have a great week. I'll see you next Wednesday. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of the Overwhelm is Optional podcast. If it sounds like your kind of thing, then I invite you to go on over to heidimark.co.uk the 1 minute mark and get hold of my free audio so that you can get started on your journey out of overwhelm to creating a life that works for you, instead of just working really damn hard trying to find a way to squish yourself in a life that isn't really working for you. So that's Heidi Mark with an E on the end, .co.uk / the 1 minute mark. Thank you for listening, and anytime you feel like subscribing, sharing, liking, commenting, it's so helpful. It finds other people find this podcast. Thank you so much for being here.